Committee will come to order today to review the report of the CIA Inspector General regarding allegations made in a 1996 newspaper series that the CIA was involved in the trafficking of crack cocaine to California during the 1980s. Before we begin, I would like to advise members and the public of how we intend to proceed. The House National Select Committee has graciously allowed us the use of this room, which we appreciate. We have been advised, however, that our lease on this space does expire at approximately 5 o'clock, and we intend on ending our proceedings accordingly. Mr. Lewis.
Mr. Hitch, I too appreciate your making the effort to come be with us here today. And I would like to express my appreciation for your long service to the country. Mr. Hitch, what were the CIA's, pardon me one moment, Mr. Hitch. Now, Mr. Hitch, what exactly were the CIA's legal and regulatory responsibilities from 1979 to 96 regarding the reporting of potential crime and the maintenance of relationships with persons suspected of involvement in drug trafficking?
Well, it was a movable feast, so to speak. The requirements kept changing. From 1976 to 1982, it was an issue that was not really addressed. From 1982 to 1995, in an agreement then hammered out between Attorney General Smith and the Reagan administration, there was no requirement to report an allegation of drug trafficking with respect to non-employees of the intelligence agencies. And during that period, that did not include agents of the CIA. It did not include assets.
Mr. Bishop.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Let me apologize for my delinquency in getting here, but I had a 2-hour mechanical delay with my flight, and I didn't want to rush that. But I am delighted to be here. I've read the report, and I have a few observations to make. The first of which is that I want to join my colleagues in commending you, Mr. Hitch, as you retire from the CIA. I want to take this opportunity to join them in thanking you for service to the agency and to our country. I would also like to make the observation that allegations of CIA involvement in the introduction and distribution of crack cocaine is very, very serious. And it really created a firestorm. In minority communities, it immediately generated comparisons to the Tuskegee syphilis study, where African Americans were injected with syphilis germs and were left untreated for the purpose of the study. The introduction of drugs, or the allegation of the introduction of crack cocaine into our community, is equally bad and reprehensible.
It seems like if they're really serious, they wouldn't be sending money to fund a group like the military and paramilitary who are just as involved as anyone else in Colombia. So how serious do you think it is? And I was struck by a comparison you made with the Nixon administration and their success in Turkey. It seemed like they may have been more serious.
And what was distinctive about the Nixon era was that they took this idea of extirpating or eliminating drugs domestically, and they combined it with foreign policy using a military metaphor to create the drug war. And the thing about the drug war is, in effect, applying diplomacy, intelligence, and military operations abroad to eliminating the supply and the smuggling of narcotics into the United States. And then the metaphor has, under subsequent administration, been elaborated and applied to the domestic situation. So we've had a kind of a militarization of narcotics policy and a militarization of law enforcement over drugs in the country.
Sandra, would you also comment on that?
Yeah, mainstream politicians that devise these programs are thinking about, all of those bad people that are doing drugs. They're thinking, thinking the moral argument that everyone's bad, and in the same way, in Colombia and other countries, the people who grow the drugs, who are also considered evil. And so I think we have to be really careful about when we talk about the war on drugs, because we found that before, there was members of the Black Caucus that wanted to send aid to Colombia because they didn't want the drugs to come into their communities. But that means that they weren't thinking about who were the victims of the drug war in Colombia. You know, why are there campesinos addicted to growing coca? And we're supporting their death and their destruction, the destruction of the ecosystem in Colombia. In Colombia, there's 2 million displaced people, and of the inside the country that no longer have a place to live or work or make money or anything like that. And of those displaced people, about 70% are Afro-Colombian. People don't even realize that from a quarter to a third of the population in Colombia are of African ancestry. And so there are a lot of racial elements to this drug war, not only in the United States, but also in Colombia. And so when we want to talk about making changes, I think we really need to broaden our minds and think beyond our own borders.
So we have to try to look at like the recovery of the people that's been victimized by these drugs, right? Because those are the people that we really have to try to help, right? The innocent people, right? We have to realize that I think, myself personally, that the government is like the enemy of the people.